Hi, everyone. Today we're going to talk about an interesting topic, and that is paycheck versus passion. So, what do we mean by that? Well, what we're talking about is it worth it to you to take a paycheck cut to go into a different job? Or I'm even going to suggest a different title, and perhaps one that may not be as grand as your current title. And how do you weigh that? How do you make those sorts of decisions? All of that stuff. All right, so let's go first. So the first thing is, I think you really have to think about, number one thing to think about is really your life. Okay. Kind of a big thing to think about as the number one thing, but here's what we're talking about. There is no job that is worth your mental torture. It's just not. Okay. So if you are in a situation where it is very toxic, if you're in a situation where you are working constantly at work, at home, on the weekends, and you don't have time for your family, you don't have time for your own personal pursuits and happiness and joy, this question should be a no-brainer of if you are willing to take a pay cut or a title cut or whatever it is. We only do this thing called life that we know right now one time. And as many of you know, things can change literally in an instant. In an instant. Okay. I just recently had a scare with one of my children where something occurred and we were concerned about a possible diagnosis, and thankfully everything was fine. But literally in that second, right? In those seconds, you're like, what matters in life? And then everything's fine. And so you start to veer away, but really, what matters in life? So really need to think about that. So I think when you're thinking about your work-life balance or work-life integration or just your life, if a job with a lower salary, if a job with a different title that maybe isn't as grand as yours, is going to make your life different, for heck's sake, I sure hope that you will consider it 100% for sure. Number two. All right, let's talk about the reality of a financial situation. So the interesting thing is, no matter what you make, whenever you get a job increase, right, your salary increases, it always gets filled, right? And then all of a sudden you're living at that budget. You were just living at this budget, the month before, and now all of a sudden you're living at this budget. You can't imagine, how would I go back to this budget because I'm living here now. So we have the capacity to infinitely expand our budgets to however much we're making. I would suggest that, and not completely, because we do have the additional things that we need to pay for if you have a family, if you're taking care, I'm in the sandwich generation, taking care of parents, where there are costs that simply might not have been there before. But in general, when you think about things that you can cut from a budget, I bet that you could find things that you could cut from a budget and still be pretty happy and take that job that maybe doesn't pay as much, that might be better for you in many other ways. And I guess thinking about, in what ways is that other job better for you? Is it a stepping stone to getting into it? We talked about changing career paths. So is it a stepping stone into getting into a different career path for you? Is it just the work-life balance issue? So when you're considering that, and then you're considering your finances, you have to think about, is my budget going to be decreased forever? Or is my budget just going to be decreased for a short amount of time before then I'm able then to kind of move up in this field or in a different career path, which is why I'm taking this pay cut to begin with. Things to think about. And again, thinking about, if you are going to do that, should you be saving? Should you start cutting things from your budget now, thinking ahead for these sorts of things? And I'm just going to throw in here a little extra about title. So I got to tell you, I'm not particularly someone who needs a certain title to be happy. I also want to be realistic and understand that, yes, sometimes your title, it does convey to other people your responsibilities, your stature, what you do. So I'm not going to completely poo-poo titles, but I am going to say that they're not the pinnacle be all end all. And a lot of people have, especially in academics, will have a title and it can mean 20 different things depending on what university you're at. A vice dean can have innumerable different responsibilities at one institution than a vice dean does at another institution. Same thing with director, same thing with so many different titles. So you know what you do, and you should be promoting what you do so that title doesn't make as much of a difference. But I certainly hope that you wouldn't consider not taking a title cut if it meant that so many things were going to be better in your life. So to think about that. And the last thing that I'll kind of just add here is really, I've touched on this a little bit, but thinking about the long-term benefits. So again, no need to go into a scarcity mindset. If you need to take a pay cut, if you need to take a title cut, again, really thinking about short-term versus long-term benefits, because maybe doing that is going to allow you to get into something that's much higher pay, more chance for promotion in a less toxic environment. And so in that case, it would be well worth it. So when you're really, to sum up, when you're really thinking about, should I take that pay cut? I don't think that the answer should always be, no, I'm not going to do it. I think you have to weigh your life, what's more important to you in your life. That's a key. I think you have to weigh if it's a stepping stone to something else. And so those long-term benefits. And then you do need to take a look at your financial situation, and you need to start preparing for that ahead of time so that you're not caught off guard by anything. Other thing I would say is, actually, as you get a promotion or as you get an increase, maybe not increase your budget so it fills that spend, right? Maybe it's time to save that, or invest that in your retirement or in your kids' college or for your parents, or however you're going to do that. So these are the things I would think about. Shouldn't always be an absolute no, that's for sure. All right, until next time.